Okay, sports fans. It's Thursday morning, May 9, 2024. May 9. I gave you 30 seconds of uninterrupted epidemic sound instrumental or royalty-free music so that when I take a breath, you hear a little something in the background. Plus, it helps me out a bit because when you're dealing with streaming audio and video over the internet, to have a constant source of sound going through the system when I take a breath, for example, or a sip of my warm coffee, there's constant information going across on the networks. 3 social networks, actually, simultaneously. YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Twitter Live, or W Live, depending on how you want to talk about it. You can see the video signal going into this little soundboard is a little flaky with this camera. Sorry. There we go. That's better. I don't know the USB plugs, the USB A, the original, the larger ones, or they get a little flaky, when you plug them in, plug them out, plug them in. USB-C are very high quality in the way in which they connect. You don't get that flakiness. Anyway, just a little man on the street survey. But I got a lot going on with this little MacBook Air with a M2 chip, Apple's most recent 2023 version. They haven't updated this. The MacBook Pros let me just take a peek up here, make sure I'm speaking properly. Let me just take about. Yeah, M2 chip, 24 gigabytes of memory. Yeah. Two terabytes of storage. Yeah. There we go. I can close that up. I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyway, so it's a very capable device. Even though there's so much going on, and I'm really pushing the limits with the audio video. I'm using of the 24 gigabytes of memory. I'm using 10. I'm using 10 of the 24. So I'm at about 42% of the memory consumption on this little sucker. Whoops. There we go. Well, it's the news. Top of the news on May 9, Thursday morning at 9:55 is Trump is back in court. They're cross-examining now. Trump's attorneys are cross-examining Stormy Daniels why she's even, in this case, doesn't make sense. It's almost like, all the talking heads that are lawyers, I'm just a regular guy paying attention to the news. When you have a former president in criminal court, can you imagine? He's not only a former president, but he's running for office to get back in the White House again. Not since Grover Cleveland, 100 and something years ago, has that ever happened in American history, where you have a former president is running for re-election. So you have Biden in office since 2020. He won that election. And Trump left office. Of course, all the liberals saying, he won't leave office. We're going to have to yank him out of the... You don't have to yank anything. I mean, these liberals are nuts. God. I don't know, guys, if you ever watched The Five, which is, a show that comes on at 5 o'clock. And, when they close out a segment and they go to commercial, they have a camera looking out one of the windows. And one of the things you see all the time is, let's see, in the background, when they shooting, North Central Park, is you see this tall, skinny building. And I'm looking around, here it is. You see this tall, skinny building. What is that building? And, the craziest thing. So I Googled it. What is that tall, skinny building that's right smack in the middle of Central Park? If you look, Central Park is a rectangular park, right smack in the middle of the island of Manhattan. And it has a footprint of, on the ground. If you look all the way down, it is right smack in it. The address is 111 West 57th Street. The home of Steinway. Steinway pianos. And they reconstructed the Steinway residence on, within the building, like board by board. They disassembled the Steinway house and they reassembled it in the building. So it goes 2 stories below ground and 83 stories up. It's the tallest skinny building in the United States. It's like, I have some statistics actually. Where's the statistic? There we go. There you go. It's 1,400 and you see that right there? It is 1,428 feet. It's got 84 floors. The Steinway. Stairway to Heaven. Steinway Tower. I guess these are names, The official name is 111 West 57th Street. But everyone, you get the Rockefeller, Rockefeller Center, the Empire State Building. You got to call it something other than the address. It's Steinway Tower because it sits right at the location of the original Steinway residence. It was completed in 2021. They started it in 2015. Can you imagine? It took 7 years to build that sucker. There's a footprint of, this is residence, it's a residential tower. This is residence number 25. You can see, if you know how to read a blueprint, which I'll help you with it. The views are north and south, the way the building is oriented. And you look straight over Central Park. It's right smack in the middle of Central Park. So you see this beautiful greenery, when you look out the window. And I imagine this is like, I'm guessing the 25th floor of this 84. So it's like you're 1/3 up the building, roughly 25% up the way of the building, 28%. And if I remember, the square footage of this residence is like 4,400 square feet. So that's the whole floor plate. You have stairwell. Can you imagine? There's the stairwell. And then you have 2 elevator shafts. These are vertical penetrations. And you get, columns on either side. I guess that's what these, this grayed out area would be, I guess, the HVAC systems, and they're reinforced concrete floor plates and reinforced concrete and steel columns. I looked up it said it was, high strength concrete. And concrete is usually measured in pounds per square inch. You have a square inch, and so they create a concrete sample. When they mix the concrete, they have to pour samples, and the samples go to a laboratory, and the laboratory then establishes that the pounds per square inch is up to spec, because the architect determines what the tensile strength of the concrete. And most regular shop. I was a shopping center developer for 2 years, and I've been a banker for a lot of years and financed a lot of construction. And industrial warehouses, the floors that have big, heavy printing presses and, metal stamping machines and all that, the floor strength of those floors has to be like 5,000 psi, because you have this, 40, 50, 60,000 pound piece of equipment that's constantly stamping. So you have to, and the floor could be 10, 12 inches thick, of solid concrete reinforced with iron and all that. And the PSI is the pounds per square inch specification is like 5,000 PSI. Well, this building is 14,000 pounds per square inch strength concrete. I've never heard of a concrete specification that was 14,000 psi. That's a lot of, well, you got the building is made of iron and concrete, and in order to support an 83-story infrastructure, the building, and all the furniture and equipment, and the elevator shafts and all the stuff. I went to the specifications. I said, okay, what is the wind? Because I remember, we had offices in Tampa City Center building in Tampa. Beautiful, beautiful building. It used to be called the GTE building. I don't know what it's called today, but when it was built, it was the GTE building. And in real high winds, you'd be up on the fourth. I think you had 40 stories, 43 stories. Yeah, you feel. There was a presentation being put on by Southeast Bank, and I was a Southeast banker, so I'm up in this, presentation, listening to, some politicians speak, and then they had some financial backers speak. And, I forget what the actual purpose of the meeting was, but you had all these, all the fancy people in Tampa, and I was invited to join these folks because I was in charge of all the major building loans in the 17 county area, headquartered in Tampa. So I was in charge of that real estate portfolio, which was sizable, billions, and that was a big job for me. Certainly under my good tutelage. Anyway, so I was in this meeting, probably, and so I'm standing next to those real high winds. This was like 5 o'clock in the evening. So the winds are blowing like crazy, for people that had to, travel into the building from somewhere else. Our offices are in the building, so we just took an elevator ride up. And so I'm standing in the back of the room, and with a glass of wine in hand probably, and I'm standing next to this guy. And it turns out he was part of the subcontracting team that built the GTE building. And I said, so I looked over to him and I said, you see that chandelier? You see it's swaying because of the wind. I said, what do you... He said, yeah, I was part of the team that built the building. I said, really? He said, yeah. We have clips, that hold the windows in and all this stuff. He said the building can actually shift about a foot, with the real high winds, 100-mile-an-hour winds. The building is designed to shift around 14 inches. I said, wow, that's quite the tensile strength of the building, because it has a big footprint, big square footprint. Now this building that we're talking about, the Steinway building, it's got a little tiny footprint. This is the skinniest building that goes up 1,400 feet. I mean, it's 82 stories up, and so the building I was in was half this high, but it had a big footprint. This has a little skinny, and it sways. The sway is 3 feet. So can you imagine being, on the 90th floor or the 81st floor of, way up on the tip of the sucker, and you're standing there, or sitting down having dinner, and the building is shifting, back and forth 3 feet in the high winds. that would be a little scary. But it is. This gives you an idea of what that. You see how skinny it is? So if you ever see the skyline, you see the little skinny building going all the way up. That's the Steinway building. 111 West 57th Street. And that's right at the very middle of, if you were on this spot, looking at, looking down Central Park, and you see that tall, skinny nail coming up out of the ground. That is the Steinway building. Yep. It's architects around the world, they know this building. Yeah. Last week I didn't know what it was. It was just a tall, skinny building. But I looked it up and I got pictures. See how it cantilevers up here? It's really quite amazing. Anyway, this I believe it's fully occupied. Those units go for like 20 million, 15, 20 million a piece. A residence that would take up a whole floor. Some residents take up half a floor. This is about 4,400 square feet. I notice here there's a long hallway, and I imagine they just draw a line right straight across east to west. And some people have a southerly exposure, and some people have a northerly exposure. I think the northerly exposure is the one that would look right up, over Central Park. You look the other way, you're looking, looking at the city. I think I'd rather look over Central Park and see all the buildings lined up all the way around the edge of Central Park. Yeah, everyone. Of course, if you get the whole floor for $20 million, you get both exposures, but it costs you a pretty penny, as they would say. All right, talking about a pretty penny. Here's a Tesla, the Cybertruck, looking straight at it, and it's wrapped in black. Whatever they wrap the cars with. It's not paint. It's they apply something on there. It's a wrap. I know a friend of mine, someone that I know, wrapped a Tesla Model Y. And it cost her, $7,000 to wrap the car. It's similar to painting, but it's not paint. It's it's an application that they put on the surface, and it's hard. You can throw pebbles at it, and it won't, like chip the paint. It's not paint. Some kind of ceramic. I don't even want to use that word. I don't know what the material is. It's some kind of an epoxy. Kind of a thing. Fiberglass epoxy wrap. Well, I was noticing gold. Gold is flying off the shelves like hotcakes. The stores, in China and Korea and so forth. And gold is selling like crazy around the world because of the global inflation. Here's the United States. This is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And you see this blue bar right there? That's when President Biden took office. He was sworn into office. The inflation rate was 1.4%. And this blue bar right over here is the most recent information that's come out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics on the 15th of this month. Then we get the April number. But the March number is 3.5%. In June of 2022, you'll remember that the inflation rate was at 9%, 9.1. And then, June, July, August, September, one thing about inflation is that, so it was up 9% year over year. So if something cost you, $10, the next, then it costs you $11. Yeah. Well, when you add all these up, that's why, a $3 dozen eggs now cost you, $5.50. It's almost, it's like double. I mean, it's like, because, all this stuff keeps adding up. It doesn't go negative. Well, it can go negative. You can have deflationary period, which would be, you don't want that either. You want it right around, 1-2%. 2% is what the target number is, the Federal Reserve. And the reason why you want some number is so that, you can't make money on borrowed money. The Fed doesn't want you to do that. You want to, you don't want to borrow money and then put it in a CD, and you make money, with borrowed money. I mean, you can borrow money and then go invest it in something, in your own business, or buy. If you create cash by borrowing money and then you invest it in your business, for example, and then it creates, wealth and earnings and all that kind of stuff, that's a good thing. But they want you to have, the Fed wants you to have, a negative breakage, what they would call. So the bank CD rate is always going to be, less than the, the inflation rate, so that you lose money by borrowing it and then reinvesting it back in a bank depository account, so to speak. So that's why they want a target range of around 2%. So if the borrowed money like today is 8%, you're not going to get more than 5 or 6%, on a depository, and that's the negative breakage I'm talking about. It's a complicated topic. That's the simple explanation of that, but you can see 9, it's 9, and this line across here is 8. So it was up in the 9s for, June, July, August, is over 8% for 6 months or so. Well, every one of those ticks, you add all that up, or you can average it over this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you take, I got my, so you go June to June, whoops, it went from 9% down to around 4%. So it makes the average around 6.5%. for the whole year. Those numbers keep adding up. So you can look, from January 21, it was pretty much straight up. When Trump gave up the White House, it was at 1.4%. Went up to, under Biden, it went up to 9%. And, it settled down to around 3, and then it went up to 3.5, 3.8, 3.6. Now it's back up to 3.5. My question is, March, what's April going to look like? Well, we're going to find that out on the 15th of this month, in a few days. This is the 9th. So in 6 days, we're going to get the answer to that. Now, if it's, 3.8, then the Fed's going to get concerned that you got 3 months in a row where the bias is up. Well, if that's the case, or if it's 3.5 again, or 3.4, was hovering around this between 3.2 and 3.8, up and down, it's going to be tough for the Fed to lower interest rates, because that would tend to drive the inflation rate up. If you increase interest rates, that tends to drive down this inflation figure. And of course, the Fed, they say they're not political, but baloney. They're hired by the executive branch. Even though they're, they try to be as independent as possible, but, they all work in the government. And this is an election cycle. So they try to make, the administration look as good as possible. And it's hard to look as good as possible when you have a administration that's spending money like crazy. I mean, they're shoveling it out the back door like crazy. And that's why you've got this terrible inflation. You can see, this whole chart is yellow. I mean, it's way up there. It ought to be down here around 1.5%, 2%. And that's, if I draw this down a little bit, there's the 2, where the shaded area is, that's the 2% line right there. Everything above that is unacceptable inflation. Here's another chart. Looks, so you can see all the Trump period. And then whoosh, pretty steep curve upwards. Well, that's these spending bills. Here's a list every month, going from the bottom to top. And January 2021 is when President Biden was sworn in. You see the rate, 1.4%. 1.7, 2.6, 5, yeah. Peaked out at 9.1 in June of 2022. And in June of 2023, it came down to 3%. And as of the most reasonable number we have, the most recent number we have is 3.5. So that's month by month. So you can see that. Now it's part of the official record of the Jimmy Broadcasting Network. Yes, sir, Big Bob. Woo! Anyway, gold. Let's go back to gold. With inflation, the safest place to put your money, is gold. Now these are gold bars You know, they're about the thickness of my thumb. You know, they're not big. Yeah, they're like half this size. You know, half this card, and yeah, let's say 3/4 of an inch thick. That's what that bar looks like. Each one of those bars is a kilogram, 2.2 pounds. Gold is like, you know, if you ever, if you fished, you know, deep sea fishing, they have these lead sinkers. No, this would be like 2 lead sinkers. They're, you know, lead is a very heavy, dense, heavy metal. Well, gold and lead. Gold is very valuable. Lead is not. You know, a kilogram, little bar like that. Gold is about $2,350 an ounce. You know, it fluctuates, but it's up there. It's not 2,400. It's not 2,300. It's right between. So at $2,300 an ounce, $2,350, and they're 2.2 pounds. Okay, 2.2 pounds in a kilogram. So if you multiply 2.2 times 16, that's 35 ounces of gold. You multiply 35 ounces of gold times 2,350, that's $82,700 for each one of those bars. $82,720. That's, can you imagine? So if you want to go buy yourself a car, two of those little gold bars that weigh 2.2 pounds apiece, 35 ounces each. They got serial numbers on them. It's $82,000 a piece of 0.9999 pure gold. They stamp them, they serial number them, you know, at $80,000 a crack. You don't want to lose one. You know. So they have them on a nice tray, you know. And, you know, you bring your cashier's check in for $82,720. You can have one of those, you know, to go put in your briefcase, take it home, and lock it up in your vault, or put it in a bank vault or something. Secure it. You don't have to walk out with the gold. A lot of these places have vaults. So you buy it and take it out of their shelf, and they put it in a safety deposit box with your name on it. And you buy the safety deposit box, you know, you rent it for, you know, $100, $200 a year, and you can store all your gold right on their premises. You know, they're licensed, insured, you know, they have all kinds of safety, secure, because they have millions of dollars worth of gold in their vaults, and you know, some of that gold is yours because you bought it. You know, if you bring in a check for I think I did a calculation. If you bring a cashier's check in for $992,000, which is close to $1 million, right? It's 12 bars. 12 of those bars is about $1 million. 12 of those. Two times 12 is 24. So it's about 25 pounds of gold. 25 pounds of gold is $1 million. So, you know, a couple of those bars, you can buy yourself a condominium or, you know, 2 of those bars, you get yourself a real nice Lexus. Yes, sir. 82,000 a piece, one bar, and you can get yourself a nice Lexus or Tesla. Tesla costs about 50, so you need a half a bar, or you can get a high-end Tesla for $80,000. Buy it gold. $1 million for 12 of those bars. So 6 bars, it's $500,000. That's the people. That's what the Asians are doing. There's a lady with gold feathers and all that stuff. For some reason or other, the Chicago school people won't let the underprivileged students play chess. Now, what? Chess is a marvelous game. God, I used to play it all the time when I was a kid. Play my grandfather chess. When I was 10 years old, 9 years old, 8 years old, I played my grandfather, who was a mechanical engineer. Played him and I gave him a good game at 8 years old. I became a fairly decent chess player as a little whippersnapper. So, the liberal media is getting after Trump because there's a governor, I think, of North Dakota. He's an oil guy. So he's trying to make deals with the oil people. You steer $1 billion in my direction. I'm going to make sure we take care of the oil business in the United States. That's how you get elected. You need money. And you get it from people that have money. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is scrapping with MSNBC because they were telling him, "You're a spoiler." So, that's all you're doing is spoiling the election by being in there. You cannot win presidency, but you can knock out Biden, because he'll lose 3 or 4 states because you're in the election, because you'll peel off more votes from Biden than you will from Trump, and you'll end up giving Trump some state victories, which will likely make him president. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. basically said, if I'm not in the race, Biden is going to lose. He is not going to win re-election. This economy is in such turmoil because of this, and this, you got the Chinese, they haven't done anything yet, but they may very well just get involved in all the global stuff that's going on. They had a bunch of their fighter jets fly all over, because they want Singapore. They want all that back. They didn't want all that part of China. They don't want this big island nation all by itself. They want that all part of communist China. And they don't want to be communist China. Now, they haven't done anything yet, but, since the world knows that Biden is weak, or appears weak, and that's why, supposedly, according to the news, I'm just a guy sitting here on the 8th floor of a multifamily building downtown Boca Raton, and news reports have it that that's why Putin is going after Ukraine right now, because we're not going to do much about it. We're going to supply ammunition and weapons and maybe some logistic talent, but no troops. So we just approved a bill, in Congress. Yes, $69 billion worth of additional aid to Ukraine. Now, it's not money, it's weaponry. It's $60 billion worth of stuff. So some of the good part of that is that the stuff gets manufactured and assembled in the United States and then gets shipped over there. So that's $69 billion turns out to be, helping the economy to an extent, because we've got companies like Raytheon and so forth that manufacture these weapons and missile systems, guided missiles, cruise missiles. Raytheon company is a big company that manufactures this weaponry, howitzer shells and all that. We've given so much. We've provided. I don't say given. We've provided so much of this stuff to the Ukrainian support, but at least we haven't. We're not losing our manpower. No, we haven't. None of our troops have been allocated to that conflict, and it's a shame because the Ukrainians are, fighting like crazy against the Russians. The Russians thought Ukraine would have dropped, after 1 month worth of fighting Russians, but not so. Ukrainians are resilient, tough, hard. They're fighting to keep their country. And, where Russia's trying to take control of their country, and the Ukrainians saying, we're going to, and they're fighting like crazy. They've surprised all the experts with their fighting intensity. And, they're getting support from the United States and NATO nations, countries, Germany and so forth, in supplying munitions and tanks and, military equipment, so to speak, not troops. The Ukrainians are doing their own fighting, but there's a consortium of countries that are supplying Ukrainians with the weaponry and the tools, so to speak, the tools of war, rifles and ammunition, bullets, cannons, tanks, the howitzers, the howitzer. You have to put those 155 millimeter. That's a big shell. That's 155 millimeter. And then it's long, and it's got, gunpowder in it, and it's like a huge bullet. And you put it in these howitzer cannons, and when those things fire, oh God. If you don't have headgear on, your eyeballs will shake. Uh, it's a powerful explosion. It shoots this projectile out of the end of this huge cannon, and that bullet, will go like 15, 18 miles away, and then when it hits something, it explodes. Because inside that big shell is a charge, an explosive charge, and it'll blow the top off the building. That's why you see these giant holes in buildings. They were hit with, a howitzer type cannon. We were now about exceeded my knowledge base of those kinds of topics, but anyway, the Ukrainians are, from news reports that I've read from our, General Keane, the 4-star general, and he says the Ukrainians are incredibly strong fighting people, and it's a shame because they're going back and forth between the Russians and the Ukrainians. They're shooting stuff back and forth, and there are hundreds of thousands of young people between the ages of, let's say, 17 and 30, they're just getting destroyed. They're killing each other. And there's probably 300,000 or 400,000. They're just, the Ukrainians are losing a whole generation of young fighters. Wiping out a whole generation worth of people. And the Russians the same way. Maybe there's, if they're 500,000, this is like 2 or 3 years they've been fighting. So let's say there are 500,000 that are dead of these soldiers. Men and women. I don't know what in the Israeli fighting forces, it's men and women. I don't know what the rules are, for the Russians or the Ukrainians, but let's say it's just men. Because I don't know. Let's say there are 500,000 men that have been killed in the 3-year period that they've been fighting since the Russians invaded the country. It seems like it's like 200,000 Ukrainians and 300,000 Russians. That's about the split. It's like 60-40. But that's 500,000 young people in the ages of 17 to 30 that are dead, buried in deep ditches. They go off to war and never come back. That's what happened in World War II. 500,000 were dead, I think, in World War II. People went off to war and never came back. Not everybody, but a whole bunch of them. And a lot of very sad parents. We've got 4 kids, so I hate to have my kids chewed up in a war. What does it accomplish? So, I'm just looking at these pictures. This whole one of these, so you got the silly case that's going on. I mean, it's not silly, it's expensive. This thing that's going on in New York City. They're prosecuting Trump for, for crime. We still don't know what law's been broken. You got this case going on for over 2 weeks. And all the fancy legal schmeagles, Jonathan Turley, I mean, he's been, he's a professor at George Washington University Law School. He says, I've been following this case now for 2.5 weeks, and we don't know what the crime is. The indictment came through without actually specifying a crime. It can't be an election crime because New York State doesn't have jurisdiction over federal election law. The Federal Election Commission reviewed everything regarding the Trump, election activities during the 2020 election. And they said he didn't violate any election laws. None. All the reports that he was supposed to file, he filed on time. They were accurate. And he had good accountants preparing all the materials. But New York State says, oh no. Donald Trump misidentified these checks that went to Stormy Daniels. And that was a violation of election law. This is something that's supposed to happen 18 years ago. Can you imagine? I mean, the statute of limitations has long run. and this crazy prosecutor in New York State is prosecuting Trump, and we don't know what the crime is yet, and why Stormy Daniels is even in the courtroom makes no sense, because she had nothing to do. She received $130,000. She signed a non-disclosure agreement, which non-disclosure agreements are very common in, contract law. It's, I signed a non-disclosure agreement, as a banker every year. I signed a non-disclosure agreement every single year for 30 years. 30, whatever years I was in banking, a long time. 32 years. I worked for private companies. Signed every year, signed non-disclosure agreement. I promise that I will not release to anybody any financial information from any of my clients to anyone else on the planet. Period. The client information that I get from a customer of the bank, and I provide loans to that customer or not. Maybe we turn down the loans, whatever. And that client hands you a financial statement, that's private between the bank and that potential client. And you shall not divulge any of that information to anybody else. And that's part of the non-disclosure agreement. You will not disclose. That's what an NDA is. Well, when you got a wealthy guy like Trump, worth $5 billion or so, $3 billion, $4 billion, $5 billion, whatever number of billions, how conservative you want to look at his assets. All the talking heads seem to think he's worth somewhere between 4 and 8 billion. Well, let's just say 5. Just pluck a number. Well, you got a wealthy guy like that floating around, he's got golf courses here and there, and he's got hotels, and he's got his, he flies around in a $100 million jet. That's his. He doesn't have to, call American Airlines to get a ticket somewhere. He just calls up his pilot and says, I need to go to Phoenix, Arizona. So they get the plane all fueled up and says, all right, the plane will be ready in, 45 minutes. He takes his he gets his security team ready because since he's a former president, he has Secret Service. He has to, tell the Secret Service that he's going to Phoenix. So they, have an advanced team go out there and make sure there's no one floating around there that, might interfere with a former president's activities and wherever he's going. He's got a whole detail of Secret Service agents that flies with him wherever he's going. They walk around the plane and make sure, there's no bad guys floating around that might injure the plane or injure the former president, whatever. So they got, when you're a very wealthy person, plus you're a former president, you got a lot of people, so, this woman pops up every time he runs for office. This woman shows up. She's got her hand out. She's looking for money. And no one wants to buy her story because she's like old news. And this New York court system is, bringing her into this courtroom, and she has nothing to offer. She's giving all these shady, there's sordid details about what kind of cologne he has in his, medicine cabinet, and oh God. And it has, and the whole case is the accounting on how he classified, because he didn't pay her. He had his attorney handle all this stuff because they're people that have approached him all the time, over years. They're all looking to see if they can basically extort money from a wealthy guy. Wealthy girls, wealthy guys, they're constantly being approached, and turns it into anyway. So she signed a non-disclosure agreement, which is a contract with his attorney, not with Trump. He didn't sign anything. So his attorney dealt with everything, and every month he paid the attorney bills, all kinds of things that his attorney would do. Close deals, put money down on new real estate contracts, whatever, or deal with this woman, deal with whatever. And it was all money spent out of his personal money. He didn't use any campaign funds to pay for any of the Stormy Daniels business. It all came out of his pocket. And the attorneys on this case are trying to say that he violated campaign laws and used campaign funds. Did not. He's got a whole bunch of accountants that he's was on his staff. Says no, it came right out of his own checkbook. We did not commingle campaign monies with with his personal legal fees. They all came out of his pocket. So everyone's looking around saying, what the heck law did he supposedly violate? So it's almost like this whole court case is they're trying to find out what he might be guilty of. That's not how our legal system is supposed to work. You're supposed to get charged with a crime, and then they prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, and the jury decides. Here, we're 2.5 weeks into a trial thing here with the jury, and all the legal experts trying to say, what's the crime? I mean, this is not even constitutional. The U.S., our constitutional legal system says a crime, you violate the law, and you get charged with the crime because you violated this law. Well, when you're 2.5 weeks into a trial, they have yet to identify what law he supposedly broke. Yeah. Let's see if we can find if he did anything wrong. That's not how our legal system works. The whole world is laughing at us because we're supposed to be this bastion of, the proper, legal system and all that, and the legal system has been weaponized against a political opponent in a presidential election cycle. And these people are conferring with attorneys in Washington, D.C., basically giving help in prosecuting this case, which we don't even know what the laws are that he supposedly broke. And a senior Department of Justice official has actually left Washington and is in New York City, and he is prosecuting this case with the New York legal team against the Trump's legal team. So, you got, this is election interference. You've got a political candidate that's trying to put his opposition in jail. Well, that happens like in Venezuela, some, banana republic. This doesn't happen in the United States. Well, that's what they're doing. They're trying to imprison a political opponent of Biden. So his whole legal system is running against Trump because the liberals, they can't beat Trump because Biden has got a record. He won the first time on the hope that he would be the great uniter, and he's turned out to be the great divider. And now he's siding with the Hezbollah and is refusing to give our closest ally, in the Mideast, and that whole, Israel and the Arab countries that surround Israel. And Israel, was attacked by Hamas and murdered, butchered, burned alive, raped, pillaged, the equivalent of 35,000 Americans in a couple of days. Can you imagine if 35,000 Americans were all of a sudden killed by an attack by one of our neighbors? We would prosecute that war, in the highest of. And now we're telling Israel, you can't do this and you can't do that, and we're not sending you the munitions and support that we promised you because, you can't use these. We're not going to send you weapons, and you're going to blow up, Hamas. And they've started on the very north end of the country, the Israeli army. And they're getting right down to this last city in the very southern part, of Israel, and now Biden is saying, no, I'm not going to send you the 200 and 500 pound bombs that we promised you. That's kind of like amazing, you know. Jeez. And Israel and the United States have been as close as you could possibly be as allies. They would help us, and we would help them. Right now, they need our help. Now, we don't have any men, you know, and the IDF is handling it. The Israeli Defense Force is handling it as far as manpower. But we're supplying, you know, missile systems and so forth. You know, and one of these shipments, the Israelis bought them. You know, they sent it. You know, they're sending money, paying for this stuff. Some of it we're providing it, and some of it they're buying it, and we won't send, we won't deliver. That's pretty bad, you know. So, because there are a lot of Arabs that are in, I think, Minnesota, and they basically said, you help Israel, and there are 200,000. There's 200,000 people up here in Minnesota, and we're not going to vote for you. And therefore, in Minnesota, we're going to hand over to Trump. Because if you support Israel, we're not going to vote for you. We're going to sit home. Maybe we're not going to vote for Trump, but we're going to sit home. And that'll throw the election to Trump. That's what's going on here. So he's sacrificing Israel so that he has a better chance at winning the election in November 5th. Terrible. Politics is terrible. I'm looking through my pictures here to see if the new iPads have been announced by Apple, and look how much thinner. This is like 5 millimeters. I have an iPad Pro. I'm working with it right here. This is about 8 millimeters, 6.7 millimeters. Now they got it down to 5 millimeters. You can see you can see the, I can't quite reach the camera. But, you know, the camera hump, just like that's on the iPhone. Magnetically attaches to my iPad Magic Keyboard, which is amazing. I mean, it's like a touch screen little laptop. It's, you know, it's amazing, you know, how they engineer this stuff. And these iPads they operate with the same essential operating system as the iPhone. So if you know how to use the iPhone, you know how to use the iPad. Yeah. And the system is very similar to the use of the MacBook, you know, computers. So the ecosystem of the Apple products, this right here, this is a MacBook Pro. So when I get a new MacBook Pro, you know, updated series, you know, after 2 or 3 years, I keep the old one because they're not going to give me enough money to make it worthwhile to turn it in or sell it. So when you pay, you know, $1,000 for a device, you're not going to turn it in, like a trade-in for $179. I said, Marilyn, I'll just for $179, I'll just keep it. It's not worth it to give it up. I'll keep it just to. So I use this as a television. This one here. And this is my working iPad, 11-inch. This is a 13-inch. And you can see it has, it's like a delayed broadcast of Fox News Channel. I can't broadcast it directly into my show here because that's not without permission, and I haven't sought permission from Fox, so I don't broadcast it. Because, I have enough news sources that I pick up through Flipboard, for example. This goes out to all the different news sources. And if I come this way and do that, see, then I get a slideshow and you can see it right there. And we'll start flipping through. Boeing 737 crashes on takeoff. Ouch. That's new. Best nature photographer. Let's go here and see if we can find out what's going on with Boeing. Some kind of they may not have written an article yet. It looks real current. Page through this, you would think there'd be something that would pop out of here pretty quick. We've got all kinds of tornadic high winds. Here's the storm system. I think I have an image of that. Let's get out of here. Yeah, there it is. These are storm systems that are coming through. From Dallas through Atlanta, Mobile, and Charleston, Wilmington. The storm is coming right up the whole eastern seaboard, but down here in the southern part is where you're going to see all the real high winds, hail, and potential tornadic activities. Up to 85-mile-an-hour winds, flooding, extreme flooding, hail. This is today and tonight. As the day goes on, it gets worse and worse. And I have a radar. Go to my radar. There you can see the systems coming through. See it? You see the clouds coming through? See the lightning, all that lightning? Oh my God. It's like Columbia, South Carolina's getting whacked. Atlanta's getting whacked. The future, here's future radar. It doesn't show the lightning. These are actual lightning strikes. Those sparkles that you see. So we go right up to, yep. And I just paused it. This is 30 minutes ago. This is 10:50. This is good through about 10:54. This is latest You can see where the clouds are. High definition radar is on. Opacity. Yeah, let's turn that up a little bit. We've got the maximum number of frames. There we go, done. There you go, now you can see the clouds a little bit better. Yep, 10:55. We're about 15 minutes behind, you know. So these, I can zoom in tighter. You know, isn't amazing that you can sit here in a little studio here in Boca Raton. These are all radar. This is coming right off the radar satellites. You get all these lightning strikes. It takes a couple cycles to go through because I've expanded the view to, you know, closer in. So Columbia, South Carolina is getting nailed. As this, you know, you can just see the whole line. And, you know, this is where you have the potentials for tornadic activity. Macon, Georgia, Auburn. All right, well, down here in South Florida, what's happening here? We've got that blue dots where we are. We've got some high winds over here, which are affecting, you know, some flight patterns. We got all kinds of heavy winds and rain and stuff in the west coast of Florida. We have power outage here. That blue circle is power outage. 1,109 households are being affected by this outage. Which is as of 10:45. I don't know what's going on down that way, because they've had power outages yesterday and today. Different locations of outages. So this blue, green, turquoise stuff is high wind, rain potential up and down the coast. Starting right here with weather advisory. You see rip current statements. It's amazing, huh? You get all this stuff. Very nice. All right, well, we're good. We don't have the kind of weather that I'm zooming back out. You can see the whole planet. Look at this. There's a planet, and we can rotate around the planet and look. You know, this is not good here. This circular activity, that is not good. So, if you're in a maritime business, you want to stay clear of that kind of activity. But that's how we're connected, you know, globally. You can see right here what's going on in the United Kingdom, what's, you know, Ireland, London. Got some bad weather over Dublin. Anything southern hemisphere. There's some bad weather here, but it's off the tip of South Africa. All this information is very valuable if you're, if you're a pilot. You watch this stuff like crazy because you want to fly around this. You don't want to fly through it because you could be history. This is not good here. Off the tip of New Zealand. You get this cyclonic, this rotational. That's where the winds get dangerous. We're coming into hurricane season ourselves, which the hurricanes come right across this way. So this part of the Atlantic Ocean is what we watch for our hurricane activity. And right now there's nothing. There's a mess of stuff right here. But it looks like that's moving northwest. This mess right here. Low pressure zone. It's not rotating and it's not heading to us. It's right smack out in the middle of the Atlantic, so most of the activity we have is, between South Florida and the Bahamas. Going to Antigua, right up this Bahama chain. Right here, that's where the cruise ships and everything come, this way. All right. So with that, I'm going to shut this down for today, and we'll see you tomorrow. And we'll pick up whatever news happens overnight and try to give you a recap of what's going on in the world, or whatever else, as I say, comes to mind. As you can see with this header up on the top, newsworthy topics and events, and oftentimes whatever else comes to mind. That's Jimmy. You can text me anytime, and it comes right up on my system here, which can be kept private, or if you want, I can display it. You decide. Just however you want to comment on whatever's discussed. You can text, you can call. I can take the call and plug you into the conversation, or just you can just talk to me and I'll just talk back to you if you have a comment, or you can just say something and I'll just listen. You can be totally anonymous. No pain, we promise. We're not here to sell anything. We don't get paid anything. All this equipment is our own equipment. Nothing going on in Boca Raton here, weather-wise. We're good. All right, so this is May 9. It's Jimmy in Maryland. Yours truly on the right. Marilyn's on the left. Met her in 1980. So we're into 44 years of being in the same place. She is amazing. Got two marvelous children that are in their 30s. There you can see a little, there's the calendar. I got 50 messages at Flipboard. I got 47 messages on my text messaging. That's there. It's amazing how these devices that we can carry in our pockets, you keep connected with the world. All right. So listen, you have a nice lunch. It's 11:22, and we'll see you tomorrow, somewhere between 9 and 9:30. I try to get it at 9. It's hard to get it at 9, but I keep trying. There we go. So let's just say somewhere between 9, we're at 9:30 to 10, between 9:30 and 10, somewhere in there. I think I got on the air here at 9:50 this morning. Wasn't quite ready at 9. I had a little connection problem with one of my cameras, but so it's like technical difficulties this morning, a little bit. It didn't keep us off the air, but it slowed me down a little bit. So listen, I'll give you another 30 seconds of uninterrupted Epidemic, our royalty-free Epidemic sound instrumental.